Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. This is Bart, and as you can tell, my voice is a little scratchy and hoarse because we have just had a U.S. men's national team World Cup match. It's been 8 years since we've been able to watch the red, white, and blue play in a World Cup for the men's side, and it was a fantastically momentous occasion. We had a 1-1 draw with Wales. I know a lot of people feel a little bit disappointed with the result, but at the end of the day, we got to celebrate a goal by the U.S. men's national team in the World Cup, something we haven't done in 8 years. We're going to break down the game. We're going to give our reactions to the game and look a little bit ahead toward that England matchup on Black Friday. And to do that on this episode of Soccer for Us, I've got two guys making their way back onto the podcast. First, we haven't heard from him in a very long time, but he is back and finally not coaching or refereeing a soccer game. Joey Logan is back on the podcast. Joey, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, my schedule's been crazy, but it's great to be back, man. It was great to watch yesterday. And the games today were really good, too. So it was a good day of soccer yesterday and today.
And also joining the podcast, it's Thomas, a.k.a. US Kiefer on Twitter. You are the historian, the stat guy. 8 years has been a long time. How'd you feel?
It's so much different when your team is in it and when they're not, because, the announcers will talk about, the match that as it's coming up and then the match after. There's just a different energy when your team's involved in the tournament. So it's a breath of fresh air. Not the full result we wanted, but we still have a point. So take that for what it is, and look to the next match.
And it is a full house tonight. We are joined he has taken a little bit of a break. I don't know where he's been. He's been leaving me on red for some reason. I don't know. It's Caleb from USMNT Corner. Caleb, your boy Tim Weah getting a goal to put the U.S. ahead early on in that match. Man, just your overall thoughts on how it felt to watch the U.S. play in a World Cup match again.
I mean, it's been a long time. The excitement and the anxiety I was feeling was insane. And then to see Tim Weah get that goal was just so sweet. Although kind of fairly short-lived joy, but at the time, I and probably everyone else was just completely on the top of the world. I said Tim Weah is going to be one of the ones to make a name for himself, and he jumped on it, man.
He did. Well, you mentioned anxiety, and that was my feeling for most of the morning. For those of you who don't know, I was probably very scatterbrained and chaotic over the past couple of days trying to get ready for World Cup watch parties, hosting that and coordinating with our home bar. So I get to the bar at like 9:15. I have to do a news hit at 9:55 and then again at 10:55 to get on some on a Newsy, a streaming news service. And then finally after that, I get to sink in the fact that the U.S. plays like an actual soccer game that day. And I was like both a combination of nervous and anxious and excited throughout the whole morning. Weirdly, my anxiety kind of just fell off a little bit when I saw the starting 11. It felt like a really strong starting 11. It wasn't exactly, Thomas, you and I talked about this. It wasn't exactly who I think I would have picked. I'm still a little iffy about Weston McKennie playing for as long as he did. We'll talk about that. But we got that starting 11. And Thomas, I don't know about you, but I just felt so much more at ease when I saw the 11 that Greg selected.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected too. I mean, the roster, lines up to see a better grouping in there. I mean, I couldn't have argued with it too much, at the top, but I think again I would have liked to seen Aronson in there, putting a little bit more pressure on there. McKennie was rusty. I mean, there's no way way around that. He just did not look in proper form there, which I think, I mean, he had some plays for sure, but I mean, definitely impacted some of the consistency, with the team in general.
Yeah. Joey, the starting 11, I mean, I do think it was about as straightforward as you could have got. I mean, we saw McKennie, Musa, and Adams in the midfield. That's been, I think, our first choice midfield. But Tim Ream getting the start at center back, I don't know if it was a surprise when I saw it, but it was definitely, his inclusion has been a surprise. He gets that start. What did you make of Tim Ream when you saw that he got the start against Wales?
I was excited to see Tim Ream, honestly. Watched a couple games of Fulham, and him and Anthony Robinson really have a good relationship. And I felt like that was what Berhalter was going with. He was going with that partnership that already had kind of been established. I think it was ultimately a smart move. I think, besides him and Tyler Adams, two best players in the pitch for me, just incredible defensive back line. Obviously, the mistake in the box was unfortunate, but overall the back line was insane. They didn't, commit too many mistakes, at least in the first half. They seemed to be on the same page, and that was the consistency with, not having, obviously, our favorite Miles Robinson. I wish he was back there with Zimmerman, but unfortunately he's not going to be back from that Achilles in time. So, and even if he was, he wouldn't be fit and ready to go. So, but no, I like the selection. The MMA was what I expected, but again, one of the M's was a little lingered. You could see that. I really wish probably would have made a change earlier, maybe gone with, a Delator, maybe, or, just somebody else, maybe midfield, maybe Acosta might have gotten in there, just to see, what the difference might have been. But, or of course, we want to see Gio Reyna, but we'll talk about that later, I
guess. We do have time to talk about Gio Reyna, but yeah, I mean, I think overall this was as first choice as you could have got. Caleb, do you think? I mean, I don't know. Maybe again we could debate McKennie versus Aronson, but this felt like the strongest lineup Greg could have put out there.
I think the MMA midfield was going to happen. If it was even remotely healthy, you knew Greg was going to do that. He's been in love with it, regardless of tactical setup, depending on who we're playing, how they want to play us, whatever. Like Greg just wants to do MMA, and that's fine. I love all those players, but I think that was going to be Greg's move all along. The only surprise I think really was, well, I think there's probably two surprises, but Tim Ream over Aaron Long. I think we all thought our boy Aaron Long was going to get the start, and then
don't put our boy on that. No.
Well, and then I think everybody had Ferreira probably pinned in as well, thinking, not necessarily that's what they wanted, but thinking that's what Greg's going to do. And he started Josh, and I think Josh was the right man for the job. He's playing against that type of setup more often, and it showed. Had some really nice hold up play, but I think that's the best 11 you could have gotten. Now we've talked about when teams want to sit a bit lower, having a different approach would possibly be better. I think we'll probably get into some players that didn't play, whether or not they could have helped us. But I mean, for the first half, there's not a ton to complain about. I think things were pretty good. I agree with Thomas Wes, especially kind of once he pulled up and started holding his groin. I don't know if anybody else has dealt with a groin issue or a groin pull, but it's terrible. It's awful. And as soon as I saw it, I started getting worried. The fact that he kept going, I mean, he knows his body more than we all do. And at halftime, I'm sure the physios and Wes were probably telling Greg, we're good to go. He's good to go, whatever. I would have probably preferred to see him get pulled out there, especially on the fact that he was already on a yellow anyways.
Yeah.
Why continue to push that? But, I'm sure we'll probably talk about our things that we would change a little bit later.
Yeah, I do think I will say this about the McKennie start is that I think it sent a signal to the rest of the team that we're going after it. And, I felt like this first 45 minutes and really the start of the match, the team looked like they were, I mean, we got like 2 yellow cards in the first 4 minutes. So this team was out and they were going at it. They were intense. They were flying into everything. And I think that was the tone that Berhalter wanted to start. But Joey, I do want to note that like the Wales setup was, I feel like there were 5 yards between, Gareth Bale and their back line. It was so compressed, but also so deep. Do you think that the team was set up tactically to deal with that? Or do you think that the idea of like, be patient, be a little patient, be okay with passing the ball was the correct mindset?
You talking about Wales setup, or you talking about U.S. setup?
Well, Wales set up, and then our response, how we were also set up to attack it in that first half.
Yeah, it just seemed like Wales was set up to counterattack, which I was kind of surprised because they do have, Daniel James and they have Gareth Bale and, those two in particular. I mean, I figured you just try to spread U.S. out and just try to bomb, wide down the wings. They kind of sat back and just absorbed the pressure, and I was like, this isn't what I probably expected from a Wales team, and a team that, has some Premier League players and some, lower level players and championship players and players who play a pretty high paced game, and they just kind of sat back on a little block and just absorbed the pressure. And, the U.S. was happy to give it to them. Like you said, the first two yellow cards, which one I agree with, one I don't. I mean, probably the West McKennie one, probably. The other one was kind of soft, and that was most of the game was a lot of soft calls, but, that is what it is. But yeah, it was surprising, to be honest. I just thought to be a little more free flowing, a little more creative, but they were just trying to play counter, which U.S. didn't really give them too many counters, at least in the first half.
Yeah, I do think that how it wasn't so much they were sitting back and countering, it was just how compressed their lines were that kind of stunted any counterattack they wanted, because we were able to, like our center backs were able to kind of hang out and just deal with any of that, while our midfields and forwards were finding ability to actually pass the ball amongst each other. Caleb, it was definitely something that I think we talked about was you're going to have to be patient in a World Cup game, but you're also going to have to be intense. Where was that balance? Do you think we found it correctly in that first half?
I mean, like I said, the first half, there's not a ton to complain about. I think we were trying to find, where we were, who we are, what we want to be, and then try to find the game. When they're sitting low like that, we don't break teams down well. We've talked about it a million times. It's no coincidence that our goal came in more of a transition type moment. That's why we've always been better against Mexico. When you talk about CONCACAF teams, because they want to play with us. And when we can win the ball and get after you in transition, we're more dangerous. That's why, the tactical setup with the MMA midfield might not have been the best way to go about it versus a team that we knew were probably going to want to let us have the ball a bit more. It makes you really kind of scratch your head with Berhalter's. I mean, it's not that he doesn't understand that. Of course he understands that. He knows what's going on. But if he wants to start the MMA, that's fine. But once McKennie showed that he wasn't 100, and it was very apparent, I feel like it would have been a super, super simple switch. To drop to more of a 4-2-3-1-ish type setup, bring on Aronson for McKennie or Reyna. But I guess I don't know. Maybe Gio Reyna is just not in the roster. Surely he's just not in the roster, right? That's why he didn't play. My God.
Yeah, there's conflicting reports about he's fine, he's injured, but I do think that in that first half we possessed the ball really well. We still created some chances even before the goal. Thomas, we had almost an own goal, followed by a Sargent run to the near post that was a really good header. At that point, it really felt like we were finding a little bit of space and finding some opportunities to attack Wales.
Yeah, the opportunity. Again, Caleb said it. You can't. There's not much to complain about in that first half. They really came at them, hard. It didn't seem like they were as locked into kind of the Berhalter system as much. They had a lot of energy, maybe a little too much energy, because a couple those early cards were kind of unfortunate. I think, again, would agree one was softer than the other, but I think there's nothing to complain about. I think they did what they needed to do. It's just the second half is where that adjustment needed to happen. And it's pretty rare when Greg's team, because usually the first half's where they struggle. In general, we've seen their first halves just not be good overall. They're just not out there. They don't have the pace. They don't have the opportunities. Granted, they didn't have a lot of shots on goal either. So let's not, for as well as they did, they didn't have, huge amounts of shots on target. I think it was just one, I believe.
Yeah, it was. It was the one, and it happened to be their goal. We had Tim Weah, who scores off of you pointed out, Caleb, it was a little bit of a transition moment. It was a goal kick that Anthony Robinson, I think it was, ends up winning it. It goes to Sargent, who basically lays it back to Pulisic. Pulisic finds Weah, who is running into that vacated space that Sargent had. He gets onto the ball. It's a nice little through ball. He takes a couple touches and outside of the right foot, pokes it past the goalkeeper. We're up 1-0. And at least the bar I was at, man, it was pandemonium. It was such an ethereal experience of just the release of all the stresses, anxiety of the past 8 years finally being released. I mean, Caleb, for you, what was that feeling like to finally see us score in a World Cup like that?
I mean, just, I don't know if surreal is the right word. I don't know. But it felt good. My goodness, just
it felt good.
Yeah, we've waited so long. Missing the cup in 2018 was just, it was tragic. There's no other word for it. It was absolutely tragic. A lot of emotion there. And the build up and the drama through qualifying and just the young team and all the narratives, and it just felt like everything just culminated to that moment, and for it to be a goal that put us up feeling like we're rolling, and we were at that point. It felt like we were on our way to 3 points, to be honest with you.
At that point, it felt right that we had scored, right?
It really did.
Thomas, Thomas, you mentioned we didn't create a whole lot, but we were dominating. It felt like that goal was deserved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was the whole play was great. I mean, Sargent holding it up, that's not going to get enough credit. He held that up enough for everyone to push up, and he dropped to the Pulisic, who just great feed right to Weah. And the Weah shot. I mean, I was saying it earlier to someone. I said the Weah goal. Think about how many players could have scored that in the history of the U.S. in that position. There's I can think of a handful off the top of my head. You know what I mean?
There's like Donovan, Dempsey.
I'd say Wijnaldum could have probably put that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and other than that, I'm not sure. In that situation, because it was unbelievable. I mean, I rewatched the game tonight and I still got the same reaction and chills, and I knew it was coming. So, I mean, that's how amazing it was.
Yeah. And Joey, I think the thing that stuck out for me is it felt like we did that on purpose, right? Like so many goals in a World Cup, especially U.S. goals, sometimes feel like, oh, that's a rebound, or it just happened to be something that took a little bit of luck. But that felt like it was on purpose, right? We saw an opportunity, we orchestrated a very great attack, and we put the ball in the back of the net. It felt like that was something that was supposed to happen.
Oh, no, absolutely. You could see it, like Thomas was saying. Josh Sargent holds it up well, gets it to Pulisic, and I yell out, I say, turn, go, and he goes, and I see Weah making the run, and I'm like, please pass it, please pass it.
I think every American said that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just beautiful. It was beautiful soccer. It was a goal that I don't think you would have seen 4 years ago. You probably would have seen it 8 years ago. Like, kind of the systems kind of changed. You don't see those kind of overlapping runs probably a few years ago. But now that we're playing a little different level of soccer, a little different quality of soccer, it was just beautiful. I scared the crap out of my dog when I came in because I was watching my phone. I just got done training, and I came in and yelled, and the call was great too. I mean, we talked earlier about the announcers and the Tim Weah. I mean, I still get goosebumps like he's talking about. I've watched it over and over and over again. And like you said, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen, but still those goosebumps come. And seeing your team score in a World Cup there's no description of it. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. I hope we can emulate that on Friday. But just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
So 36th minute, we take that 1-0 lead. And at that point in time, the United States is the greatest country in the universe. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. We are flying so high. Spirits are absolutely soaring. The bar I'm at is buzzing. We were chanting, we're singing. It just felt so freaking good. And we go into halftime with a lead. And even after that, there weren't even those minutes of oh my gosh, we almost gave up a goal. There was a couple of scary moments, but for the most part, that first half, we were in such control, Thomas, and like it felt like it felt so different than what we were expecting. I mean, we saw those September friendlies and how just like the lethargic and apathetic the team looked. This was a team that was going after it. We were so hyped up. We got the lead. We're going into halftime. It felt like this was ours for the taking. But we come out of that second half, and it was very clear from the very first, I felt like almost from the kickoff, that like Wales changed their tune. And it's something within us kind of changed a little bit too. But like, was there anything that needed to change at halftime? Or do you think that the apparent needs didn't come clear until like later on into the second half? Because I kind of think maybe there should have been a change at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, again, McKinney was the one for me that I just think you see he just was not where he needed to be, and I think that change would have provided maybe a little bit more creativity in the midfield, depending on who you put in for him, and I think that was a little bit lacking. Pulisic was taking a huge load on himself. He was getting double teamed. It was hard. Musa was really not. He had a few runs along the way. He just seems not as engaged as I would have liked to see him, throughout the game. And I think that change would have, because they were gassed at like the 16th, even before the 60th minute, they're gassed. I mean, and I honestly, I was hoping they would have gotten that second one earlier in the second half, to kind of, to maybe, at that point, kind of position yourselves a little bit more, in a way that they just kind of stopped attacking a little bit too. But again, when we've seen in games when they played that high energy half, they can't finish a game like that. And so the 5 subs Greg has to use better to allow your team to have success throughout the whole game, because you can't have those let-ups along the way and lose that momentum, because the swings on that are too much and in a World Cup.
Well, and I think I agree with you. I think at that halftime, especially seeing that Weston had kind of did something to his groin, you could tell even by the end of that first half that he wasn't at quite at 100%. To your point, yes, you have 5 subs. You only have those 3 sub windows, but the halftime window doesn't count. So why not make a sub there? Give yourself still the 3 substitution opportunities. You could have taken McKinney out, who put in about as much as he could give, I think, that day. Caleb, I do think McKinney needed to come out at halftime, but I would have subbed in Aronson, because I do think that at least when he came onto the field in the second half, you could see an immediate shift of the way he was able to turn defense to offense so quickly and take balls on the half turn and go upfield. But it seems like you may have wanted Gio Reyna. I mean, let's assume Gio's healthy, because I still don't know if I buy that he was like not 100%. I don't know what to think about Gio, but like I think the discussion there would have been Gio or Brendan. What would you have chosen?
I think either one, Gio or Brendan for Wes. It was very apparent that Wes wasn't 100%, but you're going to play him, and Gio's not 100%, but you're not going to play him. So what's the actual difference here?
Right.
There's a lot of players that were coming in with a knock. Dest was not 100% coming in, right? But he played. I think that's big. One of my biggest issues with Greg Berhalter throughout his entire tenure is just the inconsistencies of his decision making, and then the reasoning that he gives to support those decisions. He's like, well, this guy, we're not going to bring him in because he's not playing well. But then he'll sit there and bring 2 other guys that are playing, extremely poorly. There's just no consistency there. So I would absolutely have brought in Brennan or Gio. No problem with either one of them. Whichever one Greg would have decided, it would have been fine, but he didn't. I think you lost the ability to come out in the second half with some of that energy, because I think both of them would have brought it. I'm with you. I think Brennan, he he's like Mighty Mouse. He just comes in as an absolute burst of energy. So maybe he'd have been the right one. But then later on in the match, talking about all the subs and making an impact with the subs, I don't see how a Gio couldn't have affected that game. I'm really having a hard time understanding how he wouldn't have. And he even said he felt fine. He felt great. It was a manager's decision. He came out and he said it. So why play McKinney and Dest when they're not fully 100%, but not Gio? I don't know. I can't get past it.
Well, I think those are questions that Greg Berhalter needs to answer a little bit more directly in the coming days, because if Gio truly wasn't 100% fit, I do agree with you of, okay, well, why was McKinney playing? Why was Dest playing? And why did McKinney go as long as he did? Why did Dest go as long as he did when it was clear they weren't 100%? But Gio can't be trusted for even 20 minutes, And I know there's injury history, but again, Weston and Serginho were both coming in on some slight injury scares as well. So it didn't really make sense to me to not pull Weston McKinney at the half. Now, Wales did make a change. They subbed off Daniel James. They put on Kiefer Moore, a guy who's about 10 feet tall. Joey, that definitely changed things for the U.S. I don't necessarily think we didn't defend more poorly, but it definitely changed the way that Wales approached the game. And you saw coming out of the second half, they were more willing and looking to actually attack. And granted, it was still very direct, but they were looking to attack more. Do you think that the U.S. kind of conceded a little bit of the momentum in those first 10 minutes and, trying to defend too much? And it didn't seem like we ever got it back. But what was that big change for you at halftime that Wales made and that the U.S. wasn't able to recover from?
I think, just putting that big, tall guy in, seen him play before, and he's just a monster in there. And that just kind of gave some problems for Tim Ream, Walker Zimmerman back there. They had more to do. In the first half, they really didn't have anything to do because nobody was up there to defend. Then all of a sudden you got this big guy. It's okay, you got him. Okay, no, I got him. And that kind of, created problems between the both of them. And that led to eventually later on, pound the box. But that was a big switch. I think, tactically they just kind of said, we just got to play. Like, we can't keep sitting back and not play. Like, we have to take the game to them, and there's opportunities to. We just didn't do that. So they changed their mindset a little bit and went a little more forward. And the U.S. just didn't adapt to it. I don't understand. I guess, again, the injury is probably the biggest thing. The McKinney thing, he was definitely laboring, wasn't getting back to the spots, wasn't getting back into the formation. To see a couple of players kind of lingering, like you said, Serginho, I think he got a knock in the game. Anthony Robinson, I think, even got knocked in the game too as well. We just had several players who just were kind of carrying a knock. And again, make those changes, make that tactical switch, go to, back five or whatever you need to do. But just didn't make those tactical small adjustments that need to be made in games. Because as we all know, the first half is never going to be the same as the second half. It's just not going to be. Any good manager, any international manager is going to make a sub or make a tactical switch and say, okay, you're going to be in this position, you're going to be here. And that was just frustrating to see. But yeah, that's definitely target man help. It gave Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman some things to do. I think that ultimately opened up their attack more on the wings as well.
I still feel like maybe Berhalter should have anticipated that Wales was going to come out a little bit more attacking in that second half. Am I wrong for that, Thomas? Like, I feel like that was a no-duh anticipation, and it still felt like we weren't set up to, anticipate that.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Greg's tactics. I mean, again, I think he may have got caught off guard because, again, his first halves have been terrible.
Greg gets caught off guard all the fucking time. All the time. Sorry, he does.
Yeah, no, but he does. I just don't think he's prepared for that adjustment in game or even preparation for that. And that's been one of my criticisms of him. So he's very reactive in that. And so we see that with some of the subs he put in. He was trying to react to that after the fact. And so I think he was trying to hold the lead at that point. He gave his players some advice about, not being afraid, to hold the lead or whatever. I think he kind of crapped the bed of there.
But we didn't. This is okay. Sorry. This is where I'm going to get on my rant, because if the goal after the second half was to like you said, hold the lead and do what you can to grind out the result, that wasn't what we did. It wasn't like we were doing the shenanigans of kicking the ball out of bounds or standing in front of free kicks or any, it wasn't like we were doing that. So if maybe that's a player issue, but it didn't seem like we as a team adopted that mentality. And I'm just going, why did we concede so much of that momentum in that first 10 minutes of the half? I mean, it was very clear that Wales changed how they were attacking us, and we just did nothing to really respond. And it wasn't like they were doing anything spectacular, Caleb. They were going pretty direct at us. And it's not like Walker Zimmerman and Tim Ream were incapable of winning aerial duels. I know they attacked Dest on that right side a good bit, but I felt like there was no like, hey, maybe we shift this or we change the formation a little bit here or anything, or like maybe drop a little bit deeper. There was nothing, no changes. I gotta hold Greg accountable for that.
It was almost like they were caught in between two ideas of let's grind this result out, or let's keep our foot on the gas.
Yeah.
But you can't be in between those two. And it's almost like that's what it was. It was very disjointed. There was a lot of uncharacteristic individual like possession loss. I mean, you see Musa, like one of his specialties is being that just Nagby type shuttle, right? But we didn't see a ton of that. And then Dest, who is just a sauce god, didn't really have any of that. It was almost like he was in between going forward and being aggressive and being creative, and then also trying to be, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it was like they were caught between two ideas, and I feel like it has to come from the message they received at halftime. And I feel like they took the field not really having a clear idea of what they were doing.
Well, I think what bothered me again is that it was very clear McKinney wasn't operating at 100%, especially in that, even like from the start of that second half. But Brendan Aronson didn't take the field until the 66th minute. Joey, look, I mean, if you're a coach and you see that a player is clearly struggling, you kind of saw he was struggling in that first half. And it still takes you, 20 minutes to make a sub? That's not a good look. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely not. And actually, I have been a coach, obviously, and that's one of the questions you ask the players, like, hey, how you doing? You see lingering. And sometimes you have to overrule the player. Like, you have to say, look, I understand you want to play. I know it's your first World Cup, yada, 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 but I got to take you off. Like, you got to make that tough call. And that's what Caleb's talking about. He's got to make the tough calls. Like, against England, you can't wait 50, 60 minutes to make it. You've got to make the change immediately. Like, you've got to say, this is not working. I need to sub in this. We need to change this. We need to do that. And that's what is going to be critical on Friday, is that can we make that adjustment early instead of waiting to, we conceded a goal. Okay, now we're going to make the change. Like, make the change before you concede the goal, before something bad happens. Like you said, he's also on a card. So it's no brainer. You have a player who's injured and on a card, just take him off. Like, you have two legitimate reasons you can say, he was injured. He got that caution early. We didn't want to get that second one, so we just decided to make the switch. But, man, it's frustrating to kind of like those tactical switches and other things, too, as well. Not just we're harping on McKinney a lot, but, could have changed, the formation, could have changed, positioning on the formation as well. Maybe it'd be a little different. But, definitely frustrating from a coach's perspective, too.
I will say, I think one of the pros of having McKinney on the field, and I don't think he was able to operate at this, but like he's definitely a big presence on set pieces. And obviously our attacking set pieces were crap all day, and we'll get to that at the end. But defensively, we knew that Wales is going to try to score on set pieces. So maybe having McKinney still on the field is kind of like, he can defend set pieces. At that point, he was so ineffective. And then when Brendan came on, it was almost an immediate shift to transitioning from defending to attacking. I mean, his ability to turn, to receive a ball in the half turn, to connect. I mean, it seemed very much like the game that Brendan Aronson would have excelled in, Thomas, because he's used to playing in these transition games, and it turned into that for the U.S., right? We were defending a lot more. So why not bring in a guy who his specialty, he has two. He presses really well, and he takes the ball from defense to offense better than probably anyone in our player pool. So I do think that it was just like between Aronson and even Reyna, who has similar qualities, it just made no sense why it took so long to not only see but then make that change.
Yeah, it was a missed opportunity. I really think they could have come out strong in that second half. and maybe gotten a second goal because Aronson made a difference. He had a couple opportunities, right when he got in there. And so it's hard to transition. That's the thing with the sub. I think Greg has to know his players better to understand what that impact is going to be, because bringing subs in is not it's not an exact science. I mean, you've got to be able to. It's got to be the opponent. It's got to be whatever tactics you're being played, and
yeah,
being
it
able
can't
to
be just what's showing up on the little iPad that he has, right? Like it's got to be. I don't know. This isn't feeling right. I got to make a change, right?
Exactly. And I think that, I mean, I'm not saying that's easy, because it's not. I mean, I think that's where, good managers become great managers, to be able to say, you know what, I'm thinking that these are my first 3 subs off if we're leading or if we're ahead or whatever it is, and be able to do that. And so, in my opinion, the subs he brought in were because they were leading. I mean, Acosta, Gedlin, I mean, Wright, you brought some of those guys in to kind of, hold that lead. And I just I think it was it was late. It was late in the match when he brought him in. So,
well, you mentioned the next round of subs, so we go another 8 minutes, get to the 74th minute, we make 3 changes. Serginho Dest comes off, Yunus Musa comes off, Josh Sargent comes on, comes off, and then on comes DeAndre Yedlin, Kellen Acosta, and Haji Wright. Now, obviously, I think the Haji Wright change was very correct in the fact that, like, obviously we had changed the way we had to play. We were going a little bit more direct. Again, also a dude who's good in the air, so defending set pieces and also attacking set pieces. That made sense. He didn't see a lot of action. I mean, to be fair, Josh Sargent didn't see a whole lot of action. I'll back and say Kellen Acosta was an okay sub at that point, because he is a little bit more of a defensive-minded player. He is going to be slightly more reserved in the way that he attacks, but I do take issue with DeAndre Yedlin. That's not a dude that I've always relied on for defensive stability, Caleb. I don't know about you, but DeAndre's not the guy that I'm going, oh yeah, he's a lockdown defender.
I mean, we've watched the guy for 27 years with the U.S. Men's National Team, and for 20,000 years watching DeAndre Yedlin, has he ever learned to track the back post run? Nope, never. Yeah. We watched him. He's gone and played in Europe under many, many good coaches as far as being able to teach him those things. And he's coming to MLS in the latter part of his career, and he still can't do it. Watched him, like, literally just several weeks before the World Cup, lose a back post runner. And it was like, I don't understand how he continues to do that. So, yeah, I mean, when you've got a guy like Joe Scally who's playing at a fairly high level, why you bring on a Yedlin to close out is something that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, if we're chasing, then yeah, maybe you put him out there, use a speed, he can put a ball in. I mean, maybe, but I mean, we saw, was it versus Saudi Arabia when Scally came in and helped kind of change things up. Yeah. It's not like he can't. So I don't know. I think Greg got a lot of things wrong. I have not been a Berhalter out, quote unquote, guy. I've always said, give the guy an opportunity. Let's see what we can do. But this one left a really bad taste in my mouth. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say he mismanaged that second half. Unfortunately, we had a series that led to a goal. A ball. Wales is kind of sustaining a little bit more pressure on us. Forced Turner into a save. All these things kind of pile up. Joe, I do want to take you through a couple of referee decisions here, because I know that the U.S. players weren't exactly happy, and there's been some definite debate on Twitter. But leading up to the penalty kick, the foul that caused the penalty kick, it came directly off of a Wales throw-in. But that Wales throw-in was kind of allowed to happen because there was a possible ball over the goal line that Wales apparently saved. The referee did not rule it out. Anthony Robinson felt very definitively that it had gone out of play. The ball barely rolls over maybe the touchline before Wales picks it up and throws it into play. It just seemed like at that point, everything was going a little bit toward Wales's way. They were definitely playing as far up against those margins as possible. I mean, obviously as a referee, it's hard for you and I know it's hard to kind of keep our heads in those moments. And we always want to give at the most to allow play to continue. But I don't know. Did you see anything wrong with the decisions made in that sequence?
I don't think so. I saw the one today that, that kind of conspiracy theory talking about the ball on the sideline. Was it out? Was it in? That angle's terrible. And honestly, it looks like the Wales defender, whoever was attacker, was like a foot out of bounds. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. Well, the AR is really right there. Like, he's going to see that the ball is out, unless he's just not paying attention. But for me as an AR, when the ball is coming towards my line, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking down the line anymore. There's no offside. The ball's coming towards my line. I'm waiting to put my flag up and which direction it's going to be going. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of that. But the issue is, no matter what happens, you can't switch off. Like Acosta, everybody else is switching off. They're not looking at the throw that's quickly coming in. And you've got to track your runner. You got to get in front and stuff like that. And as we all know, there's no offside in the throw-in, so it's going to be a quick throw. It's going to be towards goal. That's usually what happens when you're in the attacking third on a throw-in. That was the most frustrating thing. So that doesn't happen, and the cross never comes in, and then Zimmerman is not, buffoonery of making that tackle. I don't know what he's thinking from behind. Like, even if he does get the ball, Gareth Bale is a magician in the box, and he's going to try to get that PK 9 times out of 10. He got it. And you just made it too easy for him. All you do is stand him up, let him turn, and then block his shot. I mean, I just don't understand why he had to go through his back. And even if, again, he does get the ball, it doesn't look good because he's going through his back.
Well, as you and I both know, never trust a man from Brookwood High School. But, it –
Come on now.
But I do want to point out that, I think this is where I go back to my point earlier is we weren't committed to killing off the game. Like, why were we so focused on the ball being out of play? Why were we not focused on the ball that was happening right there? Why was there not someone getting in front of a player about to take a throw in? Why did someone not try to kick the ball away? Like, all these little things that we all complain about when it happens to us, but we love to see it when our team doesn't. Like, where were those killer instincts? Like, I just didn't see that kind of stuff throughout the entire game, Thomas, that like I felt would have been the difference between us coming away with 3 points going, shit, we might be able to win this group versus, oh crap. The mentality was so not where it needed to be in these moments.
I think fatigue. I think that group was exhausted in there, and I think that's where the inexperience and the age catches up to them a little bit on that. They just didn't have that. I don't. They weren't settling on the 1-0, but they just it was a moment lapse. A little bit there where they just, they're maybe trying to just catch their breath for a minute and it came in too quickly. And you can't let up in any situation, especially at the World Cup. And then at that point, Zimmerman, he makes a clear foul and he just went through the guy. I don't know. Cause Bale's not going to do something, crazy there. He's back to goal. So that was just, again, maybe it's a tired thing. Maybe it was, everything's building at that point in the game. You're 10 minutes, well, end up being 10 extra minutes played, but of extra time, but clockwise, you're 10 minutes to 90 minutes and then you're almost done, and you get your 3 points if you can hold it in there. And so he just, he got caught up in the moment. And I think, again, that's where the fatigue factor, I think, came into play for sure.
I do want to defend Walker Zimmerman for a little bit, so allow me to do that. Was the foul bad? Yes. I having watched and kind of heard analysis and listened to Greg and whatnot afterwards, I do want to give him a little bit. Like, I don't think he was trying to necessarily challenge Bale. He wasn't trying to tackle Bale. He was trying to get to the ball first, and he missed it. Right. Like, I think people are like, why did he foul Gareth Bale there? Well, he wasn't trying to tackle Gareth Bale. He was trying to get a foot to the ball first. He made a bad judgment. He made a bad mistake, and ultimately it cost him a penalty kick. It has nothing to do with him playing in MLS. Stop with that bullshit. No, he made a mistake. defenders at every level make mistakes similar to that all the time, because I've seen penalty kicks given up in the Premier League. So you want to tell me that that's the highest standard of football? Well, people give up penalty kicks all the time in the Premier League. I've watched tons of Arsenal players give up penalty kicks. But, it was a good game, I felt like, from both center backs up to that point. So I want people to not lose the forest for the one tree that's kind of bad, right? And he made a mistake. Unfortunately, it's the reason we don't walk away 3 points. It's not the reason we lost, because we still found a way to get a point out of this. I also would vehemently say that, we, as much possession as we had, especially in that first half, we still only scored 1 goal. We still only got 1 shot on goal. So, yes, Walker Zimmerman, blame him for the mistake he made. But to blame one player for this result seems way too simplistic. If you want to blame anyone, I still say put your blame on Greg Berhalter for not adjusting quick enough and not setting our team to succeed in that second half. But Caleb, I needed to get that off my chest, because a lot of hate's been going around to Walker Zimmerman and Christian Pulisic. But I think the players, I do want to say they gave it their all. I think it's unfair to any player to somehow indicate that they didn't, or to give them hate for the performance that any of them put out on Monday night.
Well, I mean, if it's anything I've learned on Twitter, you have to take, one bad pass out of a month's worth of games and judge a player based on that. That's what
right.
I've been taught.
That's called Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you said it, and I tweeted it earlier. Is it a bad foul? Yeah, absolutely. You hate to see that. Also, give some credit to Gareth Bale. You can see him check his shoulder, and he sees Zimmerman. He steps in. He steps in. He wins that penalty. I see that play on a weekly basis, just about in the top 5 leagues. So everybody who wants to sit there and say, he is inexperienced because he plays in MLS and that's why he made the mistake, you are pushing an agenda, and you need to go check yourself, because that is clearly what you're doing. Period.
Thomas, is it an anti-MLS agenda?
Well, I may have made that tweet only because, if I'm being honest. No, I don't think it's an MLS. I mean, I think there is a group of people, but look, Zimmerman, before that play, he was playing awesome. He really was. I mean, he and Ream were working well together. So, everyone has to get, everyone wants to blame something when it doesn't go right.
Yeah,
that's always, and that's the reality of what we do. Someone was going to get the blame, and so he, he's got to get it. And he guess what? He's got to come back, and he's got to wipe it away, because we need him in the games. And so I hope for his sake he can do that for the team, because he was great up until then. And again, that's what inexperience happens sometimes in these moments, in these big games that matter for the teams, and they don't, and you know what, we don't see that level of these players haven't seen that level that often. They just don't. CONCACAF does not provide that. And he's been I will say he's been in the MLS, and that he hasn't probably seen that sort of intensity.
I mean, very few defenders in MLS have even had to defend Gareth Bale. He's played 7 minutes, so it's not even his fault.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. But I mean, again, he played great up until that point. So again, we always want to put the blame on someone. So it's not an MLS thing. I think it is an experience thing, though, and a lack of it.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean,
and that's a valid argument. It really is. He made a slightly rookie mistake. It sucks. It gives up a goal off of a penalty kick. We still had Joey 72 minutes after that because of the stoppage time added. Take us, though, real quick. I mean, you and I as referees are aware that we're trying to be more conscious of the time that is stopped during actual play and add that on at the end of the half. But it just seemed like at the end of this game, man, both teams were keeling over during the game, after the game. But it finally ends after all that time. What was the biggest positive? Your one big positive from this game that you can take and when you look back on it?
The biggest positive was the team felt like it never quit. Even after giving up the goal, you see the guys that let's go again, let's go, let's try to go. Wasn't as much enthusiasm. They're definitely tired, but I don't think the team ever quit on each other. Didn't quit on the coach. Didn't quit on. It was a huge, huge letdown. You could feel it, kind of, in the stadium, wherever the bar you're working at or watching at. But it was just good to see the team, man. To see them work together. To see these young guys. We only have 2 guys that are capped in the entire team. I mean, that's just insane. And to go onto the world stage, to go get the first goal, and then to play really well in the first half. Obviously, the second half didn't play as well, but still had some good moments when Aronson came on. Like you said, just great, man. Just great to see our boys, the Yanks, back in the not the stripes, of course, but the white kits right now. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited for Friday. I cannot wait for Friday. I'm so excited. I feel really positive going into it, even with some of the adjustments, and hopefully those adjustments are made. We'll see a different lineup, probably a slightly different formation. I'm just excited, man. It's great to watch the Yanks. I absolutely love it.
Caleb, your biggest positive from this match?
I think the biggest positive from the match is the fact that they played the match. I mean, this is one World Cup match under their belts. And before that, there wasn't one. So I think we've talked a ton about inexperience, youth, and the only way to get experience is to play. So we played a game. We played well in the first half. Things got kind of turned upside down a bit in the second half, but those are the type of things that these players learn from, and then hopefully Berhalter learns from them. Herculez Gomez said it. He said we want to talk about all the youth and in the how green this team is, and he said, but you want to know who the greenest is? It's Greg Berhalter, and I think we saw that. I think he's going to learn from this. I hope he does. I mean, my goodness, I hope he does. And the players are going to learn from it. And I think we take that, we roll into Friday. We're just naive enough to think we can go in there and get a result. I mean, it's the World Cup, anything's possible. We saw a pretty massive upset this morning. So just like Joey said, I'm so pumped. I cannot wait. The result wasn't what we wanted, but it is what it is. We move on, and let's go get 3 points from England and ruin their entire idea
country.
Of
honestly,
what soccer actually is.
Their entire country will they don't have a queen. They barely have a parliament. If we beat them in soccer, the entire country is going to crumble. Thomas, what was your biggest positive from the match?
I probably have 2 here, but I mean, Tyler Adams was amazing. I mean, he blew me away with his play, and I as a keeper, I'm a huge Matt Turner fan, and I know he didn't have a huge amount of saves, but he had some massive saves, late in that match where the team was getting tired. I thought he performed very well in the game, and I think overall, I mean, again, the experience thing is huge. Gaining that in those moments and being able to not fall apart was that was what I was concerned. How are they going to react if they got down a goal early or if they gave up the lead? And they still went out there and gave it all they had. And I think, the England game is I'm pumped for it, but I'm definitely a little I'm nervous. 2 times in 94 they started with a tie. In 2010 they started with a tie. Remember 2010? I'm sure everyone here does. The second game was against England, which they ended up having a draw against them, and then obviously the famous last minute goal in the third group stage, a match there by Donovan. So I'm kind of hoping first a draw result against England from that perspective. But hey, you know what? Anything can happen out there. I think you do need to switch some things up for sure.
Yeah.
Get some fresh legs in there, and get some more creativity in that central field to work with there, because Pulisic can't do it all. That's the thing, and there's too much pressure on him at times with that. So
we'll talk about Pulisic when we talk about our negatives, but I want to echo a little bit your Tyler Adams sentiment. I know the joke, 71% of the world is covered by water and the rest is covered by Tyler Adams. I would argue that Tyler Adams even covers the stuff covered by water. So he is that mobile and that good. But my biggest positive was I started off with it, man. Like being able to be around 300 people to watch a soccer game, that meant something. I mean, we haven't done it for the men since 2014. Obviously, the women is 2019. It's just been a while since we've had that feeling of being surrounded by that many people, just yearning for a goal. And honestly, just my biggest positive was that twofold. One, we did score, so we got to have a celebration. But the fact that we scored first, right? It was that made it just so much more like it was such a release of emotion, and that to me is my biggest positive. Let's turn to that negative though, and the one I want to talk about. We're going to talk about two specifically, but the first one we're going to talk about was the actual player who saw the field. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Christian Pulisic played poorly, because I don't think as a whole he played poorly. But there's one specific part of his game that was very unhelpful to the team the entire day. Joey, Christian Pulisic is not our set piece taker. Is that a hot take, or is that the correct take?
That's definitely not a hot take. That's definitely a correct take. I've seen Kellen Acosta kick him, and I don't like him either. Honestly, if he's on the field, it has to be Gio Reyna, in my opinion. I don't really know who else can take set pieces. I mean, I guess you can put, McKennie on that or Musa, but I just feel like Gio Reyna is probably the specialist. If it's a PK, I'll give it to Pulisic all day, but the free kicks definitely have got to be better. I mean, the first rule is beat the first man, and we just can't get it off the ground, it seems like. Pulisic is not the free kick specialist, in my opinion. But yeah, like you said, he had a good game. He did some good things. Tried to carry the team, tried to create. Obviously created the goal, so he had the assist. Almost maybe had another one. He is definitely not the free kick specialist. We got to find somebody who can do it better.
Yeah, it did feel like it was. So one of the things that I've always tried to actually say is a good positive thing that the U.S. did a lot through qualifying was, I know we didn't score a lot of goals. We didn't score a lot. We didn't create a whole lot of goal scoring opportunities, but I felt like we got a lot of corner kicks, which to me is indicative of you actually holding possession, creating good opportunities that the other team has to defend. And so when you get that corner kick opportunity, it should be another attacking piece. And Thomas, it just was like nothing good came from a Christian Pulisic set piece the whole game. I mean, it clearly is that he's the set piece taker. I mean, but why not make a change? Be like, listen, Christian, especially when Brendan Aronson came onto the field, who does take corner kicks at least for leads. Why not change that? It's not like it's going to damage his pride if he's like, oh, hey, I'm not taking a corner kick now that Brendan's on the field.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, they hired Lars, whatever his last name is there, back in June to be this set piece expert for the unit, for the team. I mean, I haven't heard his name, and I certainly haven't seen any different result from the set pieces. I mean, the reality is that, if you can say who, you don't want Christian taking it, but with the players you had in the field, who else would you want to take it to start the game? I mean, that's so I guess the lesser of 10 other evils on there of who's going to take that set piece. During qualifying, I think we had 77 corners, in most matches. I think the U.S. led the game with the team. So I mean that's a significant amount of corners. Now mind you score on what 3 or 4% of the 3 or 4% of corner kicks in general. But I think they got to try something different. I mean they're just if you don't have the player that can deliver that ball, which they clearly don't, then you need to come up with something different. I think there was, I don't know, I'd seen in a match somewhere, maybe it was even a high school match, where they just weren't good at that, and they dropped the player to the corner of the box and they passed it there, and they were at least able to get a shot on frame. You've got to try something different, and I don't know. It is frustrating. You can blame Pulisic for it, but I just don't know who else is going to take that was on the field consistently. Yes, when Aronson got in, he should have taken it, but
I think that's my kind of what I go back to is like, you can blame Christian for his poor set piece taking. Like he clearly was the one doing it poorly, but I do want to blame Greg a little bit for going, hey, let's why are we keep doing this? I mean, to your point, I do wonder why not take short corner kicks at least. It might do something. I don't know, but I mean, between Christian Pulisic can hit a ball. We've seen him strike really good goals. We've seen him do great things when he's on the ball. Maybe he's just not good when the ball's still. Maybe that's what it is, unless it's a penalty kick against Memo Ochoa. But it really was like, it was bad. It resulted in nothing. Why not take a short corner or something, Caleb? I mean, do you think a short corner is something we could try? I mean, who would you put him in, like, I don't know, Dest there? I don't know, but like, why not try something different?
I mean, I love a short corner every now and then, especially just to mix things up, keep the defenders on their toes. But yeah, it's hard to blame Pulisic when it's Berhalter's decision. You know it is. I don't think Christian's out there saying no one else is taking these kicks. I'm taking them. I don't see him as that type of personality, anyways. I think it is straight from Berhalter. Pulisic's taking these, and I mean he's doing the best he can. But you're right. I mean it's terrible, which is crazy. But I mean everybody knows people have different strengths. He's a phenomenal player, and set piece is not his strength. If Gio's on the field, it's got to be Gio. If he's not, if Brennan's there, Brennan should be taking them. Kellen, I think, is better than Pulisic. I would try Dest. My goodness, like anything other than having Pulisic do it, because did he beat the first defender on a corner once?
Once. He did one time, and it went
One
far
time.
back post to Brendan Aronson. It was the only time he did it, and it went far back post to
And then
Brendan
my thing
Aronson.
is,
I was like, this is the last thing we need.
why not have a few, training ground type plays? We saw Jesus Ferreira score in I think it was qualifying. Might have been a friendly. No, it was Nations League, right? Something like change it up,
Yeah.
but don't continue. What is it? You continue to plant apple seeds hoping for oranges. You're going to be pretty disappointed. If you continue to have Pulisic hitting corners, you're going to get disappointed because it's the same thing over and over.
Well, another guy we got to talk about, and a guy we mentioned a lot in that discussion, was Gio Reyna, and he didn't see the field. He was listed on the team sheet. He, as far as we knew going into that game, was available for selection, and he wasn't played. Jordan Morris comes on in the what minute was that? In the 88th minute, toward the end of the match. Greg Berhalter said that they wanted to see him use the speed and physicality, and that's all fine and dandy. And I'm not even trying to dog on Jordan Morris because I don't think he was like a problem by any stretch. But like, inarguably, one of your three best players was left on the bench in a game that you needed a goal. Thomas, I got to question, like, unless he is physically unable to walk, why is Gio Reyna not playing this match?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw two different reports, one directly from Reyna, and then I don't remember who posted the other one that's saying that Greg said he had some sort of cramping in his hamstring. So obviously you have conflicting reports there. My thing is this: I wanted him in there, but I certainly didn't want him to come in at the 88th minute. I'm granted there was 10 extra minutes of extra time.
That's also fair.
Because I mean, if it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes, and you would not knowing what that time is. I think I'd be like, well, why do you only put him for 2 minutes? Like, so you kind of have that chicken or egg thing in general. So I don't know. I don't know if he was just worried or that he might get hurt in that little time, and he was just maybe trying to. I don't know. Greg he's just an enigma. You just don't know what he's going to do. You don't know how he's thinking. I mean, you could have put. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if he put Roldan in. I mean, we've seen him do it before.
Stop! Don't speak.
I'm just saying, but it doesn't. There's no logic behind that. I mean, Morris is fine, but again, I don't think he's a player that should have been coming off, and I certainly don't think he's a player that really is a World Cup quality available there. I know. I don't have a good answer for it.
I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, Joey, that left DeAndre Yedlin and Jordan Morris on that right side. And they're both fine players. They're both fine players. But, like, at the end of the day, they're just guys who are probably just going to get a cross off. That's what they're going to do. Jordan's a little bit more shifty, but, like, it didn't work. It was so weird to not see Gio Reyna.
Yeah, it definitely was. After we've seen him, do some incredible things at Dortmund. I mean, he's phenomenal talent. I just don't know why you wouldn't want that guy on the field in that situation, especially after giving up the goal late. You have him in there, give him a run. Okay, hey, 10 minutes, let's get a goal, let's create something in the last 10 minutes even. But yeah, it was frustrating, man. And I got to say, he's got to start the next game. Obviously, with the McKennie thing, hopefully he's the replacement, or Aronson. I'm good with Aronson as well. I love the way Aronson plays. He works hard. He presses high, wins the ball back, and creates for his teammates. But yeah, the Gio Reyna thing is going to be talked about, especially if U.S. don't get out of the group. They're going to go back to that game. What if we made this change here and we could have taken 3 points, like we said, instead of 1? Because now, the England game, I don't want to say is a must win, but it's definitely a not lose situation because you've got to get a point out of this game. You can't go into Iran and just think, oh, we're just going to beat Iran just because. Obviously, seeing Saudi Arabia, how they played today. And I don't think Iran played England well. They were definitely overmatched, but it was a case of where England has superior players and Iran does not have those superior players.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the U.S., they don't have the same level of players or talented or experienced players that England does. Talking about 11v11. In certain positions, you could argue, okay, I could put this guy here maybe, and maybe second string. But, yeah, the Gio Reyna thing is very puzzling, and that's why I think he has to start. He has to get on the field. I want to get Aronson and Reyna on the field, but I'm just not sure the person to take off, honestly. But
I'm with you in the fact that, like, in Caleb, hindsight's 2020, but if it doesn't go the way that the U.S. expects it to go and that we make it out of the group, which I think is the most fair expectation of this team, this is one decision specifically that you're going to have to go back to Greg Berhalter and go, hey, Gio Reyna, you said he wasn't fully fit, but was he really not fully fit enough to give you 10 minutes to try to go score a goal? Again, hindsight is 2020, but I think everyone, even in the moment, was like, yeah, Gio Reyna, this would be a great match for him to come into. Because I don't think Wales defensively was doing anything at that point that would have stymied Gio Reyna. And we've seen him cut up literally the entire country of Mexico. Like, to me, this is the perfect game for him to come on in a later situation to get on the ball, attack tired legs, and find a goal or an assist.
Yeah, 100%. I kept thinking, surely we're gonna hear Reyna's name mentioned. He's warming up, he's coming in. Like, why he didn't make that change and bring on a player who arguably pisses more talent than half the roster. Like, regardless of inexperience, I don't care. Like, he's young, he's inexperienced, and the dude is a baller, one of the most talented players we have seen, and we leave him on the bench in a game where we need a goal. When you hear the reports or you read the reports where Gio Reyna was saying, I felt great. It was a coach's decision. He's basically saying, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I would have loved to have played. Of course he would have. So I go back to what I said earlier. If it's, well, he wasn't 100%. Well, buddy, 3 or 4 other guys weren't 100% and you played them. So what's the real reason here? He even said something about, like, he contradicted himself. He said, like, if it's only about health, then why would you need to make a statement saying that, well, we just felt like Jordan gave us more speed or something? Like, I forget what the exact quote was, but he gave a reason.
He said speed and
So
power,
it wasn't just
did make
health.
sense.
Yeah, the speed and power excuse of Jordan Morris is, I don't know. I'm like, if he would have said, hey, we've seen Jordan score late goals for us before, so we wanted to throw him on, I at least could have bought that, right? He literally did it this calendar year. But it just was like, but you have Gio Reyna. You have Gio Reyna. All right. Before we get too worked up on over that, because I think we could talk about how great Gio Reyna is, let's just kind of reset for a second. At the end of the day, it's still a draw. It's still a point. It is a mostly positive start to a tournament. I mean, Thomas, you've run the numbers. There's still about a coin flips chance that we get through to the next round. And you have to think that if you do anything positive against England, and that maybe is just like only losing 1-0, you like your chances to advance. But right now, England tops the group with 3 points on +4 goal differential. Wales, I think, is technically above us. I don't really know how much this plays into account because of fair play rules, but USA and Wales both on a point, both at 0 goal differential, and Iran at -4 goal differential is at the bottom, 0 points, obviously. We have England coming up on Friday. Wales plays Iran. Now, I don't think Wales showed me anything in this game that shows me that they're going to score a lot of goals against Iran. But we also saw Iran give up a lot of goals to England. So, Thomas, I'm wondering, like, when you look forward to that England match, knowing that it's most likely that Wales beats Iran by probably more than a goal, but I'm not sold on that idea yet. What do you think is the most okay, like, what's the least minimum acceptable result in your mind in this game against England?
I mean, you need a draw. I mean, 4 points does not guarantee anything. You need 4 points in help, and that's the problem. And so you've got to put England in a position where, because if England has 6, they're in. So they're not going to, they're in, and they're probably, there's not going to, they're going to play. They're not going to play, all their players. And I mean, I don't know. Harry Kane sounds like he's, going to be having some ankle scan or something. So maybe you have an opportunity to. He's not going to be fully fit anyway. You've got to get 1 point, because that 5 points, I would say, guarantees you into that, and it puts you in a good position. I mean, there's guys playing on cards. You just don't. Yeah, you got to get that 1 point. Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, if you lose, it's got to be by 1 goal, because you can't. You've got to. That's where that help's going to be, because you've got to get help from England on that. And I'm hoping, maybe Iran, which seemed like they were just, not playing any form of soccer at all against England. They were just kind of, and maybe that was their tactics against them, but it was really ugly where they were playing.
It's weird that a team ranked that highly in the world, like, there's still a top 25 team ranked in the world. There's no way they're that bad at soccer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. I thought England got 3 goals so quickly after, about 30 minutes or so, and that was done. But they did concede a couple, so I mean, so there is that to kind of build off. So
they did.
There is some of that to build off, and I think you got to take those wins where you can get them. And I think, I'm hoping they're going to look at film and break it down and see where their weaknesses are, because I don't know how you set up against them, because they are pretty high powered and fast. So Greg's going to have to, do something a little bit different in that area.
Yeah, Joey, I mean, you look at the England way that they attacked Iran, I don't think it was anything different than we would have expected, right? They're a very quick, talented team, especially on the wings. That seemed to be where they did a lot of their damage. Bellingham, Saka, Sterling all looked really good. But do you feel any sort of confidence that the U.S. can get a point out of this, if not more?
Definitely feel confident. It's all about, how you start, and, going down a goal or 2 early, it's just going to be a riot from there. They've got to stay in the game. They can't concede, free kick opportunities within 30, 35 yards. They can't, just do dumb tactical things that, would, not normally do. You just got to stay in the game, and you just got to be in every tackle. You got to be for every 50-50. You can't give England an inch. I mean, once they get an inch, they take a yard, they take a foot, they take 10 yards. I mean, they're going to be so quick and so fast. You've got to be, head on a swivel. You got to be tracking runners. I mean, you got to do all those small tactical things you have to do in a game, much less, keeping the ball and keeping possession. I mean, just all the defensive work they're going to have to do. That's why I think, again, Aronson and Reyna come in and do a little defensive work as well, which will help the formation a little bit. But, I mean, a draw is possible. It's happened before, and I don't think that those teams were any better or worse than this team is now. Probably a little bit better for this time for England. And for us, it's yet to be seen, because we're average age is like 26, 24, 25, and we're a young team. And some of these kids are coming into their careers. They're not even established yet in the national stage. Obviously, some have more success. We have some still in the MLS that are trying to find their way, and then maybe moved over to Europe or other places to go. So, but no, a draw is very possible. It's definitely possible. Anything less than a draw, or like you said, a 1-0 loss would be a disappointment.
Well, 2010 was the last time we played them. We drew. Robert Green made that historic gaffe. I think the most concerning thing that I look forward to this England match is Harry Maguire may not be available. And, if he's on the field, I feel very confident. I know, Joey, you're the number one Harry Maguire fan. So, if Harry Maguire is unable to go, I feel like that gives England a better chance in this game, right?
Oh, seeing his training video and seeing him play in an England shirt is like, total 360 from playing in a red Man United shirt. I don't quite understand it, but he looks just so different as a player. But yeah, if he can't go, that's definitely, I think, a huge gap back there. I guess it would be Tyrone Mings back there, which I'm not really scared of him. I think he's a rash player. He makes dumb decisions. He goes into tackles too hard, and I'd rather see Tyrone Mings back there than Harry Maguire for sure. Stones, he kind of does the same thing. He kind of got turned a couple times against Iran. He makes those same mistakes. I think he's too confident playing at Man City, and he thinks he's a lot better than he actually is. But they're definitely suspect in the center back. The outside backs are a little more sustained. Obviously Luke Shaw, great left back, obviously, and then whoever's in the right back, Trippier, or I can't think of who else is back there. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I guess, or whoever else.
Shaw.
But Shaw's on the left.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we'll see. But if Harry Maguire can't go, I think that's an advantage for the U.S. in my opinion.
Well, I do think that it was interesting. Obviously, England playing a back four that game. They're usually more in a back three. Not always, but that's kind of a little bit more their preferred lineup. But they do the back four when I feel like they want to be a little bit more attacking. So, Caleb, I'm going to assume that they're probably not going to think that they can attack the U.S. the same way they were able to attack Iran. But the question for the U.S. is, how do we attack England? We just saw a team that played a back five. England is a little bit more known for being okay with absorbing pressure and being a little bit more defensive. I don't think it's fair to say they would bunker, but do you think that the U.S. will have more opportunities to attack that England backline than we did against Wales, especially seeing how compact and low they were playing against us?
I think with England's attacking power, they're going to want to play, and I think they're going to be pretty confident. Hopefully, there's a little bit of overconfidence there, thinking we're the little guys, right? They're going to look at our talent and see that we're, clearly we've got some talent, but we're inexperienced, and I really hope they come firing and we sucker punch them. We hit them with an early goal, kind of make them rethink everything. Like I said before, we play well. We play well in transition.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen, like I said, a 4-2-3-1 with a Rayner and Eriksson as a 10 role versus, and then saving the MMA for England, because I think the MMA is a little bit better in transition. But either way, I think we come out. We've got a lot of talent. We're going to want to play. We're going to want to show what we're about. We've got a lot of players that play over there that are used to it. They know a lot of these guys. They play against a lot of these guys. So, you want to talk about inexperience as far as the stage, yes, but as far as who they're playing and what they're playing against, a lot of our guys are used to that. So I'm really confident. I feel like our team has the talent to compete. It's just whether or not we can get over the mental hurdles that the players are putting on themselves, and then that are just as equally inexperienced managers is placing on our guys. So we'll see. I'm ecstatic, super pumped, cannot wait. The anxiety is probably going to start sometime around Thursday afternoon after my turkey coma hits in. I'm gonna wake up for my Thanksgiving nap, and then that's all I'm going to be able to think about. Probably won't sleep well, but we'll see. And I, like I said, I'm confident. I feel good, and let's just can we fast forward time? Can we do that? Is that a possibility, or is Elon Musk still working on that?
I don't think he's quite figured that out. He's too busy driving Twitter into the cesspool. You know, I do think that, you know, it's possible. I think that's the biggest thing I could just say is it's possible. My scenario, because I know Thomas, you kind of ran through what you think, but I'm kind of hoping a little bit maybe that as long as we don't lose too badly to England, so I'm literally saying it's got to be 1-0 or less, right? Like you can't lose by multiple. I just don't see Wales scoring a whole lot of goals against Iran because of just the way Wales isn't necessarily a goal scoring machine, you know. So I don't see them winning by a whole lot. But if say England beats us, say Wales wins, we're on 1 point going to the final match day. Wales obviously knows that they really just need a draw, but they still kind of need a win. England knows that they need to just not lose to secure a top spot in the group. I think it would be a harder nut to crack for Wales to beat or to get a good result against an England team that is going to be so resolute defensively to not give up a goal to just get that draw to win the group. Then it would be for the U.S. to go beat an Iran team by a couple of goals to make sure we get that goal differential. So that's kind of what I'm like a little bit visioning. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you get a draw against England and you get the win against Iran, I mean, I think your math has said like 5 points is almost assuredly going through, even no matter what Wales does. I mean, it would really be beneficial to just get 5 points, you know?
Yeah, I mean the numbers I ran are from 98, so that's 100% of any team with 5 points, you know, is advancing. I mean, before that, it's a little more convoluted because you have third place teams in the groups, you know, advancing. So it's a little bit. I mean, I was looking at the 94 one. I mean, I don't know how old everyone is, but the 94 one is interesting. If you go back and look at it, you have two groups with teams that have 6 points each. So 3 teams have 6 points in 2 groups, and then you have one group where all teams have 4 points. So it's like, I mean, mind you, it was only 24 teams in the tournament, and so the quality of play was higher. But it's like you're not going to see that sort of thing, you know, nowadays. Yeah. You're just not going to see that. There's more, you know, there's more gaps between the quality of teams from top to bottom in the groups. So
I needed that reassurance. Thank you. All right, everyone. It's been a little bit of a long episode. Obviously, we've had a lot to talk about. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Joey, where can we follow you on the socials?
Just Look Under 5 is on Twitter. I'm on Facebook too, but Twitter is usually my more darker side of myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thomas, where can we find your work and your thoughts?
US Keeper on Twitter, and I mentioned I have a couple things on Chasing the Cup that I've written.
Yeah, go check out Marcus O'Malley's site, Chasing the Cup. He's also been on the podcast before. Good guy. Caleb, your last, plug all your stuff, man.
USMNT Corner on the Twitters, and J. Caleb Cook 1 for the personal. Let's talk about it, and let's bring home a win.
Let's get a win on Friday, boys. That's a great attitude to go out on. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Bart. I'm out.